Imagine waking up on a ship where every sunrise could be your last, where gold decides your loyalty, and the only law is the edge of a cutlass. This isn't Hollywood, this isn't fantasy. This is the real history of the pirates of the Caribbean, the ruthless raiders who terrorized empires and built their own kingdom on the waves. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, because the next few minutes will change everything you thought you knew about pirates. Now, let's begin. They weren't the heroes you grew up watching. They weren't charming misfits with witty smiles. They were executioners of the sea, men and women who carved kingdoms out of salt water and gunpowder. And tonight, you'll meet the real pirates of the Caribbean. This is not the fantasy. This is not Hollywood. This is the truth, raw, violent, and unfiltered. Because before the Caribbean became a postcard paradise, it was a graveyard. A place where a single mistake didn't cost you money. It cost you your life. Let's begin. The opening of the Pirate Age. The year is 1650. The Caribbean is not a peaceful ocean, it is a battlefield. Spain claims every island, every coastline, every drop of water, but they cannot control it. The sea becomes a hunting ground. Spanish treasure fleets haul unimaginable wealth. Gold, silver, emeralds, cacao, spices, straight from the New World back to Europe. Every ship is a floating castle. Every voyage is a taunt to every starving sailor watching from the shadows. And from those shadows, pirates rise. They are not born criminals. They are sailors abandoned by empires, soldiers unpaid by kings, slaves who escaped hellish plantations, and wanderers who found freedom only in violence. The Caribbean becomes their kingdom. The cutlass becomes their voice, and fear becomes their currency. The Brotherhood of the Coast. Before the Caribbean knew pirates, it knew buccaneers, not the rum-drinking adventurers you imagine. These were hardened hunters who lived on the edges of colonial society. They smoked meat on crude wooden frames called boucan. That word, boucanier, soon evolved into buccaneer. But they didn't stay hunters for long. Spain tried to exterminate them, burning forests, destroying camps, torturing survivors. But all this did was turn hunters into warriors. Buccaneers started targeting Spanish ships, at first for revenge, then for survival, then dead for glory, and soon thousands joined them. They formed a code, a brotherhood built on loyalty, democracy, and ruthless efficiency. They shared loot equally. They elected captains. They punished betrayal with death. This wasn't chaos. This was organized rebellion on the waves. The island of pirates, their sanctuary, Tortuga. Not a Hollywood set, but a real island where law melted into the ocean. If you stepped onto Tortuga in the 1600s, you would find drunken sailors spending stolen gold, gunsmiths forging weapons day and night, merchants trading rum, gunpowder, maps, and even human lives, captains recruiting crews for the next raid, flags from every corner of the world flapping in the tropical wind. Tortuga wasn't a town, it was a storm waiting to strike. Every ship that left its harbor carried one purpose: to break Spain's grip on the Caribbean and take everything they could from its treasure-filled veins. The most dangerous men alive, names that would haunt the Caribbean for decades, begin to rise. François l'Olonnais, a man whose cruelty became legend. Henry Morgan, not a fictional hero, but a real strategic genius who commanded armies of pirates like a general. Black Sam Bellamy, the Robin Hood of the sea, feared for his skill, respected for his fairness. Charles Vane, unpredictable, violent, and unstoppable. Blackbeard, a walking nightmare using fear itself as his weapon. But Part 1 focuses on the transformation, the moment ordinary sailors became the world's most feared raiders. And it all begins with one question: what happens when thousands of desperate men discover that the ocean has no laws? They rewrite them. The truth behind the myth, forget the stories of buried treasure. Pirates didn't bury gold. They spent it the moment it touched their hands. Forget the tales of singing on deck. Pirates lived days soaked in salt water and nights soaked in blood. Forget the costumes. Real pirates wore whatever they stole, and most of the time they looked like drifting ghosts. But one thing is true, they feared nothing but the noose. Every raid, every storm, every gamble on the open sea was a race against death. And somehow that made them fearless. Because to a pirate, life wasn't something you protected, it was something you took. The beginning of the reign. By the late 1600s, pirate fleets dominated the Caribbean. Not one or two ships, but dozens, flying black flags that sent chills into every Spanish sailor's spine. The Caribbean turned into a chessboard. Spain moved treasure fleets. Pirates moved in shadows. Colonial governors made secret deals. Navy ships hunted endlessly, but the pirates had one advantage no empire could understand. They had nothing to lose. And for men with nothing to lose, risk becomes a weapon. The golden age of piracy was not romantic. It was not honorable. It was survival, raw and wild. And this is only the beginning. The Spanish Empire feared no one, but that changed when one man stepped out of the shadows, carrying a hatred that could set the whole Caribbean on fire. His name was François l'Olonnais. History remembers many monsters, but none of them ever sailed a ship. The mad dog of the Caribbean, picture this. A lone ship drifts along the coast of Venezuela. Its deck, silent, its crew, nervous. Its captain, calm, but with eyes that burn like wildfire. That captain was l'Olonnais. He wasn't born a killer. He was made one, forged in slavery, torture, and Spain's merciless brutality. Captured as a young man, beaten and abandoned on the shores of Campeche, he learned one lesson. Mercy is a myth. And when he escaped, he swore he would never kneel again. Every Spanish ship he captured, he gave the same final message. Tell your masters, the devil sails with me. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. The beginning of pirate terror. L'Olonnais didn't raid ships. He annihilated fleets with a crew of outcasts, runaway slaves, deserters, ex-soldiers, and pure killers. He launched a terror campaign that made Spain tremble. Spanish sailors began abandoning their posts. Spanish governors begged for reinforcements. Spanish towns sealed their gates in fear of a ghost in a blood-red coat. Because when l'Olonnais attacked, no one survived to tell the story, or so people thought. One man did survive, and his testimony spread across the Caribbean like lightning. He said, "He is not a man. He is hunger, wearing a human face." Fear became l'Olonnais's greatest weapon. The Brotherhood takes shape. But piracy wasn't only about terror. It was about organization. And that organization came from the pirate code. You've heard the Hollywood version, funny, dramatic, romantic. The real one? Deadly serious. Every man had an equal vote. Captains could be replaced instantly if they showed weakness. Stealing from your own crew meant execution. Desertion meant marooning, being left alone on a barren island with nothing but a bottle of water and a gun with one bullet. Loot was divided with mathematical precision. Injured pirates received compensation, an early form of pirate insurance. It wasn't chaos, it was democracy forged in violence. And it worked. Crews operated like well-oiled death machines, but they needed leaders, strategists who could turn lawless raiders into unstoppable forces. That leader would soon emerge, a man whose name would shake the entire new world. The rise of Henry Morgan, before he became a legend. Henry Morgan was just a stubborn young runaway from Wales. But the Caribbean gave him a taste of freedom, and he devoured it. Morgan didn't fight like a pirate. He fought like a general. He studied Spanish defenses. He learned naval formations. He trained his men to move as one. He didn't simply raid ships. He invaded cities. And his first major target would change piracy forever, Portobello, a city Spain called impenetrable, a fortress loaded with gold, silver, and soldiers. Morgan looked at the map and whispered the words no sane man would dare speak. We take it. The raid on Portobello night falls over the Caribbean. Morgan's fleet glides like a shark pack toward the coast. Every man on board knows that dawn might be their last sunrise. But Morgan has a plan. Not brute force, not blind courage, but psychological warfare. He orders his men to capture local fishermen, not to harm them, but to use them. Morgan forces the fishermen to row him toward the guarded harbor. The Spanish soldiers see the boats. They assume it's their own people returning. No warning shots, no alarm. Morgan's boots hit the sand before the guards even realize death has arrived. Within hours, the pirates overrun the first fortress. Within a day, Portobello is burning. Within a week, Spain is humiliated. The world learns something new. Pirates are not reckless. They are tacticians. They are soldiers. They are geniuses of chaos. And Henry Morgan becomes the embodiment of the golden age of piracy. The shift in power. Spain's grip on the Caribbean shatters. The impossible has become possible. If Portobello can fall, anything can. Pirate crews multiply. New captains rise. Governors switch sides. Merchants begin supplying pirates secretly, profiting from the chaos. Caribbean waters become a stage where empires crumble and outlaws thrive. And Morgan knows something bigger is coming. The world no longer sees pirates as simple criminals. They have become an army. The pirate empire begins with Tortuga and Port Royal serving as pirate capitals. Wealth floods the underworld. Gold traded by the fistful, foreign ambassadors bribed for protection, secret maps sold in smoke-filled taverns, weapons upgraded, ships rebuilt stronger and faster, alliances formed between pirates and colonial officials in exchange for a cut of the loot. The Caribbean becomes a chessboard of corruption, and at the center of it all stands Henry Morgan, a man ready to lead pirates into their most ambitious campaign yet. A campaign against the richest city in the New World. But first, the world will meet more monsters, more legends, more black flags rising on the horizon, because the golden age of piracy is just beginning, and the sea is already hungry for blood. The Caribbean trembled when Portobello fell, but no one, not even Spain, was prepared for what came next. Because Henry Morgan wasn't done. He wasn't satisfied with capturing a fortress. He wanted to burn an empire, and the target he chose would ignite the greatest pirate invasion in history. Its name, Panama, not a town, not a port, but the beating economic heart of the Spanish New World. A city where gold flowed like water, where silver was stacked into mountains, where Spanish pride stood tallest. Destroy Panama, and you destroy Spain's power. Morgan knew this, and for the pirates, the decision was simple. If you want to rule the Caribbean, you must set its richest city on fire. The gathering of the wolves, Morgan sends word across the sea. To Tortuga, to Port Royal, to every hidden cove and outlaw harbor. A message carried by whispers, we sail for Panama. Pirates, buccaneers, deserters, runaway slaves, and hardened criminals pour in. Over 1,800 men, a pirate army larger than many European regiments. This wasn't a raid, this was a war. Morgan assembles them in Jamaica. The beaches fill with gunpowder smoke. Cutlasses are sharpened, muskets cleaned, ships repaired until their hulls shine with tar and ambition. He stands before his fleet and gives one promise. Panama holds more treasure than your eyes have ever seen. That was all they needed. Adubi. The treacherous journey to reach Panama, the pirates must cross the deadly isthmus of Darien, a hellscape of poisonous insects, swamps that swallow men whole, jungle heat that kills even the strongest, Spanish ambushes hidden beneath the green canopy, but Morgan's men keep marching, driven by greed, by adrenaline, by the dream of holding more gold than any pirate before them. Some collapse, some die, some vanish into the darkness, but the survivors push forward, guided by fury and faith in their captain. After days of torment, the jungle breaks open, and there it stands, Panama, rich, golden, glittering in the tropical sun. The pirates, half-starved, half-mad, tighten their grips on their weapons. They didn't come this far to leave empty-handed. The battle for Panama, Spain is ready. Thousands of soldiers guard the city, cavalry, cannons, trained infantry. And standing at the front, a commander who vows that no pirate will pass. But Morgan is a strategist. He studies the battlefield, searching for weakness. He sees it. Spanish troops rely on cavalry, a cavalry terrified of one thing, gunpowder explosions. Morgan orders his men to set the nearby fields on fire. The smoke blinds the Spanish horses. The blasts echo across the plain. Panic spreads, chaos erupts, and Morgan's pirates charge. Their screams drown the sound of muskets. Their cutlasses flash like silver lightning. Spanish lines collapse. Within hours, the city's gates fall. Panama becomes a battlefield. Its streets echo with gunfire, steel, and terror. By nightfall, the richest city in the New World is in pirate hands. The fall of an empire. The sacking of Panama becomes the most shocking event of the century. Spain, once the most powerful empire on earth, suffers a humiliation so brutal it shakes Europe. News spreads like wildfire. A pirate captured Panama. Not a king, not an army. A pirate. The world begins to question everything. If Spain can't defend its treasure, its power is nothing but an illusion. And while the city burns, Morgan's men stuff gold, silver jewels, spices, and exotic goods into every possible container. Treasure so vast that some pirates weep when they see it. Morgan has done it. He has achieved the impossible. But in the Caribbean, victory always comes with a price. The great betrayal. As the pirates prepare to return to Jamaica with unimaginable wealth, rumors begin to spread. Morgan, their brilliant, fearless leader, may have taken the biggest share for himself. Whether true or not, it divides the crew. Fights break out, trust collapses. Pirates who once stood shoulder to shoulder now glare at each other with suspicion. And then, the final betrayal hits like a cannonball. When Morgan returns to Jamaica, he is arrested. By the British, his own allies. Why? Because Europe cannot tolerate a pirate who threatens the balance of power. They cannot let a pirate become a king. Morgan is taken away, his future uncertain. His reputation legendary, and the pirate world learns a cruel truth. Empires will support you when it benefits them, and destroy you the moment you shine brighter than their crowns. A new era begins. Morgan's fall sparks a transformation. The pirates realize something crucial. If they want to survive, they must evolve. New leaders rise, new ships set sail, new black flags flap in the ocean wind. And among these rising legends, one name grows louder than all others. A man who will become the most feared pirate to ever touch the Caribbean. A man whose beard glows with smoking fuses, whose shadow freezes the hearts of sailors, whose name is whispered only at night. Edward Teach Blackbeard. And in the next chapter, he will awaken. The rule of the sea. Pirates weren't just criminals, they became rulers. Their reach extended across trade routes, colonial politics, contraband networks, secret alliances, hidden harbors, black market supply chains. The Caribbean turned into a shadow kingdom, one where pirates dictated the movement of wealth. Blackbeard stood at its center, not as a tyrant, but as a symbol of unbroken freedom. And that made him dangerous. Too dangerous. Empires can tolerate criminals, but they cannot tolerate men who inspire revolutions. The decision to end Blackbeard. The British Crown had enough. They wanted the demon dead. No capture, no trial. Just silence. Two colonial governors, terrified of Blackbeard's influence, pushed for action. They funded a secret mission, a hunting party of elite naval officers, led by Lieutenant Robert Maynard, a man as fearless as Blackbeard was feared. Maynard set sail with one mission: find Blackbeard, erase him. But Blackbeard would not die quietly. The final battle would become one of the most brutal in pirate history. The last stand at Ocracoke dawn breaks over North Carolina's coast. The water is still, the air heavy. Blackbeard's ship lies at anchor, its crew unaware of the hunters approaching. Maynard's ships glide across the surface, silent, patient, then a roar. Blackbeard's cannons fire first, shredding Maynard's decks. Men fall screaming. The masts crack. The sea turns red, but Maynard anticipated the fury. He hides his surviving men below deck. Blackbeard sees an apparently empty ship drifting toward him and orders a boarding. He leaps onto the deck. Pistol dot cutlass, smoking beard, raging screams. And that's when Maynard's trap springs. British sailors erupt from the hold. A storm of steel engulfs the deck. Blackbeard fights like a myth. He takes bullets, he takes blades. He keeps swinging. Witnesses swear he survived 5 gunshots and 20 stab wounds before he finally fell. Even dead, he frightened his enemies. They beheaded him and threw his body into the sea. Legend says the headless corpse swam around the ship 3 times before sinking. A final message from the demon of the Caribbean. You may kill me, but you will never kill the sea. After Blackbeard, the shadow of legend. With his death, something changed. Pira. Blackbeard ruled with terror, but the next pirate king ruled with something far more dangerous, charisma. His name was Samuel Bellamy, but the world would come to know him by another name, one whispered with admiration, not fear, Black Sam. Where other pirates carved their legacy through blood, Black Sam carved his through brilliance. And for a moment, he became the richest pirate in the history of the Caribbean. But legends that rise too fast often fall without a sound. The outlaw with a dream. Before the gunpowder, before the storms, before the cannons. Bellamy was just a young sailor with one impossible dream, to become the greatest pirate who ever lived. Not for greed, not for glory, but for love. According to law, Bellamy left England to earn enough gold to return and marry a woman who had been deemed too rich for him. It was a fool's quest, until he met a crew that believed in something bigger than treasure, a crew that believed in him. The rise of the gentleman pirate. Bellamy didn't look like a pirate. He didn't act like one either. He treated prisoners with respect. He never tortured. He avoided unnecessary killing. He listened to his men. He followed the pirate code with absolute fairness. Ships surrendered to him willingly, not out of terror, but because sailors knew they would be treated well. His reputation spread, the pirate with honor, the pirate with mercy. The pirate sailors preferred over their own captains. This wasn't weakness, this was strategy. And Bellamy used it to build the most loyal crew in the Caribbean, the legend of the Wider. Every pirate has one moment when the sea itself seems to rise and say, "This one it is chosen." For Bellamy, that moment came in 1717, when he captured a massive slave ship named Wider Galley. He didn't just capture it, he transformed it, from a vessel of suffering into the most powerful pirate flagship of its time. 300 men, 28 cannons, reinforced hull, speed that outclassed naval vessels, storage vast enough to hold entire fortunes. The Wider became the envy of every pirate in the Caribbean, and with it, Black Sam became unstoppable. The Golden Haul. Bellamy's raids were lightning fast and precise. Merchant ships surrendered instantly. Navy vessels couldn't catch him. Rumors claimed he could see the future in storms. His treasure hoards grew heavier by the day. In a single year, Bellamy captured more wealth than Blackbeard did in his entire career. He became the richest pirate in history. But wealth brings weight, and weight brings danger. Because the Wider wasn't just full of treasure. It was full of dreams, pride, and blind confidence. And the sea hates confidence. The curse of the Wider Bellamy sets course for New England. Word spreads that he is going home, that he will return with gold beyond imagination. But the sea has its own laws, its own justice, its own hunger. On April 26, 1717, a violent storm slams into Bellamy's fleet. Winds roar like demons. Waves strike like falling mountains. The Wider struggles, but its weight becomes its doom. Treasure shifts, cannons roll. Timbers groan, a final wave, towering, merciless, crashes over the bow. And the richest pirate ship in history is pulled beneath the black waters of Cape Cod. Only 2 men survive. The rest, including Black Sam, vanish into the depths, their gold sinking into silence. To this day, much of Bellamy's treasure remains buried in the sea, a reminder that the ocean gives and the ocean takes. The aftershock of the Wider, news of Bellamy's death spreads quickly. Some pirates mourn, others celebrate the chance to rise. Empires breathe easier, but something deeper changes. The Caribbean's golden dream cracks. Pirates realize the truth. If the sea can swallow the greatest among them, then no one is safe. And so, the era of mercy ends. The era of brutality returns. As the Golden Age nears its twilight, Two new forces prepare to collide, cutthroat captains desperate for survival, and empires determined to exterminate piracy once and for all. The world is about to meet the pirate who built a floating republic, and the pirate who nearly ended the Caribbean itself. One name rises from the shadows, Charles Vane. And just when the pirates thought they ruled the seas, everything started to fall apart. The golden age of piracy didn't end with a heroic battle. It ended with fear, not fear from pirates, fear inside them. Because by the early 1700s, the great empires, Britain, Spain, France, finally realized something terrifying. A few thousand pirates were costing them millions in gold. So the kings decided to do what kings do best, erase threats. They created special naval units built specifically to hunt pirates. Fast, brutal, relentless. Ships that didn't negotiate. Ships that didn't show mercy. And suddenly, the predators of the Caribbean became prey. Blackbeard was cornered near Ocracoke. His ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, crippled. The British Navy boarded. Blackbeard fought like a demon. But no legend survives forever. He was shot, stabbed, and finally beheaded. His head hung from the naval ship's bow like a trophy, a message to every pirate still breathing. But something even more effective than violence ended pirate power: pardons. Governments promised freedom to any pirate who surrendered. Food, land safety. For pirates living day to day, constantly hunted, always starving, a government pardon sounded like heaven. Crewmates betrayed each other, ships were abandoned, entire fleets vanished without firing a shot. By 1726, the era that terrified the world was over. No more rogue kingdoms on the waves, no more stolen empires built on plunder, just stories, whispers, and legends. But here's the secret. Piracy didn't die, it simply changed shape. From the high seas to hidden coves, from wooden ships to modern criminals, the pirate spirit, the hunger for freedom, still survives. Because as long as there are treasures worth taking, there will always be someone willing to risk everything to steal them. The pirates may be gone, but their shadow still haunts the sea. What started as desperate sailors turned rebels became something larger, a symbol of freedom, a rebellion against kings, a refusal to live by anyone's rules. The real pirates of the Caribbean were not heroic, but they were unforgettable. They carved their laws into cannon smoke. They built nations from chaos. They shook empires with nothing but stolen ships and unstoppable hunger. And today, every time you hear the crash of a wave, every time you see a distant horizon, you're looking at the same world they ruled with fire and steel. But here's the truth most people don't know. The golden age of piracy lasted only 30 years, yet its myths have lasted 300, because legends never sink, stories never drown, and the spirit of rebellion never truly dies. They were more than raiders, more than thieves, more than nightmares. They were the men who challenged the world and left a scar across history. This was the real history of the pirates of the Caribbean, the ruthless raiders who changed the seas forever. If you lived in the golden age of piracy, would you choose to be a Navy officer chasing pirates, or a pirate living free, even if it meant dying young? Comment your answer below. And if you want more untold stories, dark history, and forgotten legends, subscribe now. More epic history awaits.